Hello everyone, welcome to Book Talk. I'm Carolyn Gibson, and today we have with us Rita Mae Brown. Rita Mae has just come fresh from her farm in Virginia, and she's here today to talk to us about her newest book, the wonderful Whisker of Evil, that she co-wrote with Sneaky Pie Brown. We don't have Sneaky Pie with us today, do we?
Well, she's home on Mouse Patrol.
Mouse Patrol, that's important, and you can't just take Sneaky Pie off Mouse Patrol with no warning. I understand that. Most of you know that Rita Mae has written, is this the 13th?
In the Sneaky Pie series.
In the Sneaky Pie series, yes. Also, 2 million books in print, a New York Times bestseller, and probably you may be, to many people, best known for your book, Ruby Fruit Jungle, which is in some ways autobiographical and beautifully done piece of literature. Some of our viewers here today that are on our set were telling me how much they enjoyed your first work.
Oh, good.
And you've also got a list of most impressive quotes, and the one that fits this book is, "Humans are no match for cats and corgis." And we come to find that out. So this is your 12th collaboration with Sneaky Pie, who helps you write when not on Mouse Patrol. And how did you and Sneaky Pie begin writing together?
It was the Writers Guild strike in 1988, and I was working in Hollywood. I was getting a lot of work, actually, and I had, I think at that time, I had 2 Emmy nominations. And in Hollywood, the money is like an avalanche. It just rolls in. But then there's a point at which the avalanche stops, you know, but the bills don't. Anyway, the strike went on for 9 months, so nobody could write. I mean, nobody could do anything. And the cat said, well, let's try mysteries. And of course, I was just said, genre fiction, never, never. The suburbs of literature, never. However, she convinced me. So we did this first novel, and thank heavens, because I learned an enormous amount through the format. That it wasn't as limiting as I thought it would be. But really, mostly, I'm just a secretary. I do what she tells me.
Well, then you say that that's how she introduces you as her secretary when you do go on TV talk shows together. Sneaky Pie introduces you that way. Your books are categorized as cozy mysteries. And I had a little trouble with that, because on the first paragraph of page 1 in this book, we have a man who's dead in a creek with his throat ripped out, probably by some wild animal, and that's just not so cozy. And as the book goes on, it gets a little less cozy, although there are cozy parts through the book. But tell us a little bit about who finds this man who has his throat ripped out in the middle of the creek.
Well, it's Mary Minor Harrison, whose nickname is Harry, and she works at the post office. Right. And she's fairly, you know, she's young. She's in her middle 30s, and she's out on a walk with her corgi and 2 cats.
They're pretty important characters.
They are.
Yeah.
And he's still alive. He's in the process of dying, and she knows this young man. He's a horse trainer, and his throat is ripped out. So it looks as though some wild animal has done it. And this is why the animals, the cats and the dog, are so important, because they don't smell a wild animal. And this is so recent, because he's still dying, that they keep saying, but we don't smell anything. And there's no saliva on the wound. So they think something's quite odd. As it turns out, it's more bizarre than even they could have imagined.
And there are no tracks. I mean, the animals actually, before Harry finds the man, they're talking amongst themselves, which may bother some readers some, because before this book is over, I begin looking more forward to the animals' assessment of things than the people, but I don't know where that takes me. But they set the stage pretty much for the fact that, you know, no one's been around here, and how did he get here? And there are no footsteps, and there are no smells, and there are no signs, there are no traces. And so the dead man turns out to be Barry Monteith. Tell us a little bit about him.
He's a young man he's had a lot of lady friends. He's generously distributed his person. And this has gotten him in some difficulty, as it does all men.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, and he has a business partner, another young man, who's a little more settled. And they've just gone out on their own. They really don't have a dime, but they have a lot of talent. And they're trying to train steeplechase horses. And also, so they're hoping to get into flat racing, but that's not as important as the steeplechasers. So Harry knows them because she has a couple of horses. After all, she lives on a farm, and her ex-husband has horses, and he's a veterinarian. So everybody knows everybody. And I mean, the first thought is, you know, that he was killed by a wild animal. And then when it becomes clear that he wasn't, then the second thought is he must have really gotten some woman mad.
Right.
You know, so it goes up, and of course these things don't pan out as you think they do. And then in the process of this, Harry finds a ring of a woman that's been missing for almost 30 years.
Right.
And they've never found the body.
Right. Another fascinating mystery within a mystery. And that ring, of course, is a real clue. We can't say a whole lot about how that turns out. But this is a good mystery because almost everybody, except for the animals, has a motive to kill this man. Mm-hmm. And there are no suspects to put at the scene of the crime. And then before long, guess what? We have yet another dead body. Turns out to be Sugar, who is Barry's partner in the business that you talked about. But Barry turns out also to test positive for rabies. But we already know from the animals, there haven't been any animals around there. And so it just gets thicker and thicker, this stew that's building around this death. And Sugar, guess what? He tests positive for rabies too, oh my. Whatever could possibly be going on here? So that brings us to Jerome Stolfus, who is an animal control officer. Tell us about him.
You know, I'm sure every one of your viewers and the people in the audience has known a person who has just a little bit of power and it goes to their head.
Totally officious.
And Jerome is one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't wait to throw his weight around.
He's like the Barney Fife of animal control officers.
He really is, except he's pretty smart.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Jerome. But he just offends everybody. Mm. And he's just sure there's a rabies epidemic. Well, he's not helping anything by getting everybody all whooped up and more scared, you know. And so he goes to the different horse breeders and he demands to see all their rabies shot certificates. And anytime he walks in the post office, he says, well, these animals can't be here and I demand to see their rabies shot certificates and all this and that. I mean, but the odd thing about Jerome is he begins to get close to the truth. Mm-hmm.
So close, in fact, that he ends up dead. Mm. And you've already told us how people feel about him. I mean, almost anybody in town would take a number and off poor Jerome. So everybody wants to kill him too. And you know, I always like to think that I can figure out who done it, like 2/3 of the way through the book. Trust me, folks, you're not going to figure this one out. You know, this ending is just wonderful. Another storyline, apart from the murders, involves the romance between Harry and Fair. And Fair is one of the veterinarians you mentioned. Tell a little bit about how their history has evolved through your books to this one.
Well, they grew up together. I mean, they were in grade school together, and then they fell in love. He's, I think, 2 years older than she is, or a year older, in high school, and they went off to separate colleges. But when they came back, they got married, and it seemed like a wonderful pairing, and for a while it was. And then he sort of hit that 30-year mark and began to have a crisis, I guess. Anyway, he ran around on her, and so she divorced him.
And when he ran around on her, he ran around on her with somebody named Boom Boom. And I did not make that up because that's in the book. And this affair purportedly happened after Harry and Fair separated, but I don't really believe that, do you?
I don't either.
No, I never believed that. And so now Boom Boom, whose real name is Olivia Craycraft, is friends with Harry. And I don't really believe that either.
Well, they all grew up together.
Yeah, so they're stuck with each other. So tell us a little bit about the character of Boom Boom. She's pretty flamboyant.
I love her, actually.
Do you know her, by the way?
Yes, I do.
So what's her real name, Rita Mae?
Tell you, but I can tell you her bosoms would make a flight deck.
Is that right?
You could land an F-14 on those things.
If she falls in the lake, she will not drown.
Never.
Is that what you're telling? Okay.
She hasn't seen her feet since she was 13.
This is Boom Boom.
This is Boom Boom. And of course, all the men love her.
Oh, yeah.
American men have been weaned too early. I am
There's
convinced.
no question,
It's
right.
just like, they just go right for it. Well, anyway, she uses them to good effect.
Yes.
But she's beginning to have her own crisis. You know, men fall over her too easily, and she's getting bored with it. She has conquest after conquest, and her husband died young. She inherited the concrete business because of him, and she has a very good business sense. And little by little, she and Harry are trying to come to some accord because everybody's saying to them, you really have to. And in ways they have. But the odd thing about Boom Boom is that she and Fair have actually done more soul searching in the last couple of books than Harry. I mean, Fair went into therapy and tried to figure out, why did I ruin this marriage? The only woman I ever truly loved. How could I be so stupid?
And he still loves her and admits that all along.
He does. He wants her back.
Yeah.
But Harry is the one that hasn't looked inside.
Yeah, I was going to say something to you about that. Harry just sort of rocks along from murder to murder and blissfully doesn't, do a whole lot of introspection about relationships.
It'll catch up with her.
In the next book, maybe it might.
I think it's going to start to catch up with her the next book and ever after, because it's sooner or later it boomerangs on all of us.
That's right, sooner or later. And then, of course, the names, I love the names. Boom Boom was my favorite, of course. But then after Boom Boom would be Miranda, are you ready for this, Hagendauber, who works in the post office with Harry. Now, she's kind of an interesting, stable sort of a person, isn't she?
Well, she was sort of a religious nut after her husband died. She's in her late 60s, and of course, I believe piety is like garlic. A little goes a long way.
And she quotes scripture pretty much throughout, doesn't she, Miranda?
She knows her Bible, but she has, Harry's changed her in ways, because the two of them have began working together. And also, her high school beau has come back, and that's sort of changed her. She's lost weight, she looks younger, she's still very religious and sings in the choir. She's a beautiful voice, but she's a little more tolerant than she used to be.
She bakes great yeast rolls.
Yeah, orange cinnamon
Orange
buns.
cinnamon. And if you get Sneaky Pie's cookbook, you can get the recipe for those. So I just thought I'd throw that in for those of you out there who are not counting carbs, those of you who are eating with reckless abandon. And then the other characters, of course, the whole book is alive with characters, and sometimes I'd find myself going back to make sure of who was who. I'm glad you put the cast of characters in the front, because they're the Sanborn family. Just a précis report on the Sanborn family. Big Mem, Little Mem, and Jim, they're sort of throughout.
Right, and Big Mem has more money than God.
Yes,
and
the social queen.
The Queen of Crozet.
Right.
And her daughter, of course, is resentful.
Little Mem.
Little Mem. Well, the Southerners know that, but Yankees don't.
No, they don't know Big Mem and Little Mem.
They don't know that Southern women name their daughters after themselves, like fathers get Junior, but if you're a woman, it's Big and Little.
Exactly. And Alicia Palmer is another character we don't want to leave out, because she figures in, and she is tied to Mary Patricia.
Right.
But Mary Patricia's been dead 37 years. See, in this book, the dead people are just as important as the live people. That's another thing. Talk about Alicia a little bit.
She was lovers with Mary Pat when she was a young woman in her 20s, and she's very beautiful. And she had acting talent. Mary Pat Raines was a very, very wealthy woman, very kind, very generous, very community-minded. But of course, in those days, the phrase was, people are just that way. Nobody said gay or anything like that. But the ladies were accepted as long as they didn't say what they were doing.
And they had a huge estate, a big farm.
Right.
They also had horses.
And when Mary Pat disappeared, it takes a long time to say that somebody's legally dead. But everything went to Alicia. And of course,
because there was no body, for one thing. They never found a body.
Never. Well, we can't go, but
no.
So Alicia went on to Hollywood, and because of her great beauty, became a huge star and had a couple of husbands. One was a director and one was something else. And finally, in her 50s, decided, I hate this. There are no roles for me. And
going home.
I'm going back home. And so she comes back. And she comes back in this book, which also sort of upends the apple cart. Because here's this woman who is so gorgeous. It doesn't matter that she's in her late 50s. She's utterly gorgeous. And I remind all of you out there, Sophia Loren is 68. I never looked that good at 30.
Well,
my God.
Yeah, what can you say? And I don't even think she had plastic surgery, come to think of it. You know, she had the bones. She didn't need plastic
But
surgery.
she has the flight deck as well.
Oh,
let's
sure.
face it.
That's right. There you go. Well, we've already covered that part.
But this woman is interesting because she has to be reintegrated into the community.
And she's really a celebrity, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's a major movie star.
Yeah, major movie star. She figures into this plot in an important way. Then there's another veterinarian in the community. You might want to mention who he is.
He was really, in ways, a mentor to FAIR. He's sort of the senior veterinarian in the state, and also of all equine practitioners.
And everyone respects him.
Very much so. He's another one that's kind. He gives to the community. He helped out Barry and Sugar and would do work for them and wouldn't charge them because they were starting out. And they rented Mary Pat's old barns. So everything sort of begins to tie together in these barns.
Everybody's sort of tied together. And when you started writing this book, or any of these books, do you have like a storyboard, or do you just let the book take you there?
I'm not smart enough to have a storyboard.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that, because I was afraid that I envisioned you sitting somewhere in a room with all these characters on the wall and some elaborate genealogy and charts and cooking them all together, but I'm so glad that they just fell there.
And I never really plan anything when it comes to
Did you know
novels.
who had done the murder before the end?
Sort of. I know the characters. For me, character is plot. If I know my people, then everything else is fine.
About where were you in the book when you knew who the murderer was going to be?
I think the cat always knew. I think Sneaky Pie was
Oh, sure, I knew Sneaky Pie knew.
But,
I mean, if Sneaky Pie were here today, I'd be asking her these things.
I think when Alicia comes back is when I began to understand this was more complicated than I thought.
Right, because you have the sense halfway through this book that the book is taking you and you're not taking the book.
And that's when I thought, oh, that's who did it.
Yes.
You know?
Well, we've also got, it's sort of like Steel Magnolias here. We have a beauty shop in town, and the beauty shop owner is also an important person. And her name is Carmen Gamble. She sort of disappears at an inopportune time. And Carmen, by the way, is sort of in the same league with Boom Boom.
Maybe a little lower down.
Promiscuous comes to mind.
Yes, as Mother would say, she's no better than she should be. And she's fun, but the thing about her is she's fun, and she's rebellious.
And people like her.
You can't help but like her.
People like her.
I mean, she will just say what she thinks when she thinks it.
As usual, Ms. Murphy helps things along by doing some sleuthing on her own. She goes out at night when everyone else is asleep. Pewter, of course, is asleep most of the time, according to Ms. Murphy. But Ms. Murphy talks to mice and owls and foxes and barn swallows. And what is it that what information is she trying to get from them?
She has to be careful with some of these animals because they aren't...
Can't trust all those barn swallows.
She wants to find out, is there rabies? Have they seen rabies in the wildlife population? Because in America, thank God, we have pretty well conquered rabies in terms of domestic animals, and very few people ever get it. I mean, it's so rare that you can go a year and no human contracts rabies. But it's in the wildlife population, and it has seven-year spikes often. So she goes to these, different groups, fowl, foxes, etc., to see, have you seen it? Have you seen it in your populations? And they say no. And
they do discover what species of animals the rabies came from that they found in the two dead men at the first of the book.
The silver-haired bat.
And are there silver-haired bats around there?
There are in the caves on the other side of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And in fact, I had to do a lot of research for this, obviously. The silver-haired bat is one of the largest reservoirs of the rabies virus in the United States. It doesn't mean every silver-haired bat has it. It just means there's always some in the population.
Right, and I was going to ask you about that research. In all the and truly, you talk about how there are myths around rabies. Like if you go in a cave where there are bats, you might breathe the air and get rabies. But Did you learn anything about rabies that surprised you in all that research?
I did, actually. Well, first of all, I should tell you that because Sneaky Pie has her rabies shots, I had to go get mine, or she wouldn't work with me. So I did.
Picky that way, isn't she?
And they're expensive. They're expensive for humans.
Have you really had rabies shots?
No, I have.
And it used to be that you had to get them in your stomach, right? And they hurt. Do they still?
No, you have a series of 3 in your arm, weeks apart. And these are like the prophylactic shots, like the ones that you would give a cat or dog, but they're for humans. If I were bitten, I should still go through the regular routine, but the chances are if I couldn't, let's say I was in the middle of Asia, where rabies is epidemic, because they don't have the programs that we have, I would have a chance of surviving. If you don't have the prophylactic shots, rabies is 100% fatal.
Right.
You never, ever recover. No mammal can recover. Once it presents itself, and in the human being that'll take about 3 months. But what I learned that I did not know, because I thought I was pretty conversant with rabies, was that it's linked to Lyme disease and syphilis. And they're what's called spirochete diseases, and they are really amazing and repulsive diseases.
Embed and strike later sort of thing.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
How old were you when you got the rabies shots?
I got them last year.
And what made you decide to get them?
Well, I'm the master of foxhounds of Oak Ridge Fox Hunt, and I hunt the hounds myself, and we don't kill foxes. It's different in America. But I'm out a lot in the middle of everything. And one of the people in our club is a physician, and she said, you know, you really have to get these shots, because you don't know what's going to happen to you out there.
If you fell off the horse, or if something flew at you and bit
or
you,
if you just got saliva from a dead animal on you and it happened to have rabies.
It doesn't have to be a bite.
No, it doesn't have to be a bite at all. The saliva just has to get into you.
And we, in this story, the 2 bodies of the men who tested positive for rabies had no bites on them.
No bites.
Think about that for a while.
And the other thing is people think that when an animal's rabid, it foams at the mouth. Not necessarily so.
So somebody could have rabies and you might not know it.
Right. And if a human has it, when the last part, when the symptoms actually show, because you don't feel a thing, you don't know you have it, you start to feel like you have the flu.
So now people are worried about AIDS, and they probably should begin to be worried about rabies.
Maybe not in America. But I don't know. There are some people I look at and I think they are rabid. They're all in Washington.
Just not foaming at the mouth quite yet. Horse breeding is another key factor in this plot, and you have a stable of horses of your own on your Virginia farm. Did you already have all this knowledge about thoroughbred breeding and selling, or did you, in fact, have to research that as well?
That I had because I grew up with it.
You just knew all that?
Yeah, and it's been part of my life since I came into the world.
And there are a lot of things that come out in the book that I would think most people are probably unaware of about breeding horses. Talk a little bit about what all that entails, the expense and the detail. I mean, I was astounded. It's a business and it's work.
It's a business and it's also an art. There are some people that have a gift for it. The thoroughbred stud book goes all the way back to the early 1700s in England. So we can follow some of these bloodlines. We know a great deal about it. And if you're breeding for the racetrack, of course, you might go to a sire that a stud fee is $100,000 or some or more than that. Right now, anything that has Mr. Prospector blood in it or Stormcat, there's just huge stud fees. So there's a lot of money on the line. The brood mare was probably very expensive, and you want to try to get the right bloodlines that match, because otherwise you will have lost your money and probably created an animal that will have a pretty dismal future. You know, you've got to be responsible about this. But there are millions of dollars in this business.
And there's also a difference in breeding horses to be, of course, to be race horses or to be steeplechase horses. Or what are your horses?
Fox hunters. So I go back to the old, what I call staying bloodlines, the ones that can go for a long time. Not a horse that'll run 6 furlongs, and for blinding speed, I go for stamina.
For endurance.
Right.
Yeah.
And those bloodlines are out there. You sort of have to look around for them because we don't have many classic distance races anymore. So those bloodlines are beginning to die out.
How did you get interested in that?
My mother.
Is that right?
It's always been in our family, and
Yeah.
of course she got it from hers. And
So it's just in your bloodline, so to speak, even though you're adopted.
well, but I'm related. I mean,
Yeah.
she's actually my cousin once removed.
Yeah, it's okay. So you're kin. Yeah.
That scares me. It really does.
Well, don't be afraid. Most of us have closer bloodlines than that to our own mothers, and we're pretty afraid too.
Do you know the difference between my mother and a terrorist? A terrorist makes fewer demands.
I hear you. I hear you. But you might not be able to recognize your mother from a terrorist if it's on a day when she washed her hair. Is that what you're saying? Good one, huh?
That's a good one.
Also in this book, you teach a lot about some practices that aren't really the best for horses in this breeding business. I mean, there's some kind of unscrupulous things going on.
People can cheat. Not as much now. Now that we have DNA testing for horses, it's harder to cheat. But before that, in the thoroughbred world, you still have to do what's called a live cover. In other words, you have to take the mare to the stallion and actually have the two live animals breed. Most other forms of horse breeding can be done through artificial insemination now. And they are because there's less danger involved. There's always danger involved in a live
Because
cover.
either horse could be hurt.
Right. Or they could hurt you.
Yeah, or hurt the people around. And then what about, talk a little bit about running 2-year-olds, which is our practice. That's not the best thing?
No, it's not the best thing at all for the horses because for many of them their bones aren't set yet, you know.
And why do they do it?
The money, the tax burden, let me put it this way. We're such an industrial country that nobody understands agriculture or animal husbandry anymore. And they saddle, forgive the pun, agricultural people or horse people, because that's agriculture, with the same tax structure as industrial or service industries. You can't do that. They have forced people to push animals through much faster because nobody can bear the burden anymore, because the costs are extraordinary in bringing an animal to maturity. Not just the breeding, the feeding, the shoeing, the vetting, the training.
Right. So, you know, as interesting as this book is for a mystery, there's a lot that can be learned in it. And our time is almost gone, and animals play such an important part in the work that you do. What would you want to tell us about your love for animals?
Well, Sneaky Pie came from the SPCA. So I would ask all of your viewers if they would go to the SPCA, and if they can, adopt a cat or adopt a dog. If you can't, give them $10. You have squandered $10 on foolish things in your life. We all have. Give that SPCA $10 and say it's from Sneaky Pie.
Let a Sneaky Pie adopt you, perhaps. And you are working on a 13th book with Sneaky Pie. Just a tiny bit about the plot.
It's set in a monastery on top of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and there is, in fact, a religious retreat on the Blue Ridge Mountains. A statue of the Virgin Mary cries blood.
Wow, sounds exciting. Thanks for being with us. Rita Mae Brown, author of Whisker of Evil, her latest book in the series, with Sneaky Pie.
You're watching the Library Channel, a broadcast service of the Memphis Public Libraries and the City of Memphis.